Thank you for taking the time out today to join this webinar. Today we'll just go over a brief description and review of what Sage Intelligence has to offer. We do plan on holding future webinars to go in further in detail. Right now we're just going to do a quick summary of what Sage Intelligence is. Sage Intelligence is easy to use. It's a familiar interface with Excel. We also eliminate spreadsheet chaos. What this means is your VLOOKUPs, you're pulling multiple data into several Excel spreadsheets, doing the links. It's direct out of the box, so it's linking directly to your data. That allows you to save the time and money and to automate the report preparation. Flexible reporting allows you to produce graphs and anything else, KPIs that you want to see on a high level. Improves collaboration, which means it allows you to automate reports, whether it's through a scheduled process at night that will automatically get emailed to several different email groups or individuals, or it could also be scheduled to be saved into a folder, whether it's being a daily task run on your system to run monthly, whether it's weekly, whether it's daily at a certain time at night. It will also consolidate data. So it will allow us to consolidate multiple databases, whether it's Sage, whether it's anything that's ODB compliant. We could pull that data in and also use Sage Intelligence to use reporting to report on that kind of information. As well as there is some out-of-the-box value predefined reports that Sage has provided that you could use currently with your system. So that being said, we'll just kind of dive into what Sage Intelligence looks like and give you a brief overview. So within the system, and when you get the Sage Intelligence, there is what we call Report Manager that is licensed by an individual. So it's not a concurrent user license that we currently have with your Sage users. It is detailed and it's defined by the user and by workstation. So a report manager allows you to save reports, allows you to create templates, allows you to design new reports. A report viewer will allow you to just run those reports that's already predefined and that your report manager has saved or created templates. So that being said, if someone uses the report viewer, runs the report, but then wants to change that view for the next time, they cannot do it. So it's just a view. They could save it to any folder that they want. You don't need to have a report viewer in order to access a saved Excel template or a saved Excel file that's on the server in the shared folder. So you could save the files and go somewhere else, but keep in mind it's a template, it's saved as is. The data is stored with the file, so they could then manipulate the data as they wish, but it's not if they are not able to then save that report and save the changes that they've made to be able to run again or refresh. There is also what we call a connector that will allow you to create or consolidate multiple databases. So within here, this is the Sage connection here. It's ODB compliant. This is just for an auto connect, which means it connects to just one database. So when you're running reports in that folder or in that database, it will automatically pull reports pertaining to that particular database, the company that you're currently in. Sage Consolidation allows you to pull and determine what database am I consolidating, what reports am I running from what databases, because you may have two different reports. One uses these 5 databases, another one uses the other 5 or the other 3 databases. One could be USD, that you consolidate all USD, or one that you consolidate on all Canadian, or as a group as all. So within here, there are some predefined. These are what we call queries or connectors. This is automatically built within Sage, and they've kind of defined and determined what fields are they grouping together to be able to provide us this information. So these are the fields that we are now able to run reports against and pull that into what we call our Excel pivot tables. So all of these are predefined and predetermined in queries built by Sage. However, we are able to create, or if someone within your system or your company is capable of building queries, they're also able to create a new connector and then start be able to pull in and manipulating data and building your own Excel reports. But you will need to know your Sage tables and fields and keep in mind how to connect those, because you may be missing a primary field or that you are connecting, so you may get multiple data. So when we build reports, we always make sure that we are able to then reconcile it back to the details that come out of your Sage, whether it be in your trial balance or GL transaction listing or previously predetermined financial statements. So I'm just going to go through, review. These are the reports that allow you to come out of the box, dashboard analysis, the financials, which is like a general ledger transaction details. Keep in mind this does not replace what you currently have in your Sage reports underneath general ledger. This is just additional information that you're able to use while using Sage Intelligence. Inventory Master is also like your inventory valuation report, so it's real time at the point when you're running the report if you are using inventory. Top 5 customers, top 5 products, top 5 vendors. Purchase Master, that's only if you're using purchase orders. And Sales Master, you could either run whether it's a sales order entry or through directly from invoicing out of your AR. So we'll just kind of touch base on some of these reports out of the box. Dashboard analysis is kind of giving you your quick overview of your profit and loss for a particular period. So this is for period 1, 2000. I did it for a full year. This is sample data, so keep in mind I'm always showing you 2019, 2020 data. Top 5 expenses, top 5 customers, top 5 items, bottom 5 items, and keep in mind these are also Excel graphs that are pulled and created based on information from this database and this table. So if you don't want to see this here, but you just want to see the view, you could create a report and just kind of copy this graph to another sheet and hide this report so that they're only seeing the high-level graphics and KPIs that you want to see without showing the detail, just like any Excel database. This is also showing you, like, this is Excel familiarity, so it's all graphs, it's conditional formatting, it's pivot tables, it's anything that you currently do within Excel. So once the data is there, you are able then to manipulate it however you feel by having columns, bolding, anything like that. Then we could go into what we call the general ledger transaction listing. Like I said, this is just a nice view and quick view of pulling data out of your system from your general ledger. You're able to then filter. So if you were doing some kind of reconciliation, didn't know where the information was coming from, you're able to then go in and just kind of do a quick view and say, okay, I want to see all my 5,000 accounts. I need it for period 2019. I only need to see period 7. And it kind of gives me that. It tells me my reference, tells me and my description that is actually brought over from your Sage GL transaction listing. There are also posting sequence batch numbers. So if you wanted to see additional information, you could kind of just pull this information in here. And now it's going to give you your batch number. So now you could go back into Sage and then look at that batch and see that entry and see, oh, what does it need to, and then you can drill down from that level. These are all the additional fields that is coming with the system. If you needed additional fields, like for example, optional fields, that would be a requirement to change what we call the connector to add that optional field and link it to your GL. And then you'd be able to then see your optional field and be able to pull that other data in. There's also the top 5 customers, which we kind of saw on the quick dashboard. You can also change this as well. There's currency, so you could see what's my top 5 USD versus what's my top 5 Canadian. You could also change this top 5. It's Excel again. So your value filters here, this says top 10. I could change it to say top I could then go back here and clear my filter from Canada. Now I've got my top 10 customers. So although that this says top 5, there is flexibility because it's pivot tables, and you could then go ahead and add your top 5 or top 10. You could also then drill down just so that you just see the high level of what customers there are and the totals. Keep in mind you could also copy this sheet and maybe now I don't want to see all the details, so I might not need to see my item codes. So I just want a high quick view of what's my total, my top 5 or top 10 customers for, and I could then maybe even put for a period. So maybe I might want to add, you know, on this file, additional columns to say my year or my period, and then I could also do a filter on that. Next, we have what we call the inventory master. Keep in mind, this is only if you have an inventory module. Once again, it's a quick view of your item valuation report, which will allow you to manipulate and kind of slice and dice the data based on the location. So maybe you don't want to see that whole report. You just want to see, I want to see my location number 3. Maybe it's only for a particular item number, or maybe a particular category. So this kind of, and it's Excel, so you could then print it, you could format it the way you want to save it, and then you can always get back to it. Now, keep in mind this is real time. If you see something on this report that doesn't look accurate, you could then go into Sage. You could then post or do any actual details that you need to post, and then you have to go in and you actually have to run the report again. And when I say run, there's an option here where you click here and you say run, and it will ask you for what year or what period, what currency. So all these, each report has different filters, different parameters. You could change them, you could add them, you could modify them. If I was to look at general ledger transaction listing and say run, it's giving me what fiscal year. I could select multiple. I could select, actually this one doesn't allow me to select, but I could change it to select multiple years. The fiscal period, from what period to what period. Within the dashboard analysis, it allows me to select the fiscal year and period, and also the currency. So I might just want to print Canadian. So all these have different parameters, and these parameters are stored with what we call in the Sage Intelligence Reporting. This is the manager. So I can't even show you on this because these are already saved reports. So you'd have to copy and paste. So we'd have to copy and paste it because it says a saved template from Sage. Then you'll be able to see these are the columns that we've identified. This is the filter. This is the parameters. So if we said start date, so if you do properties, we could see that it's greater or equal to, and then they said a month and start date. So this is where you actually go in and modify your reports and save it, but you have to have a report manager license. Underneath this column, I could add. If I click add, then this gives me all the fields that I showed you that was in the connector license. So as much as they didn't have the document date or document number or item name, I could then go ahead and add this field. So now when I run that report, I now have additional field and data that I could then go filter and add on to my report. The next report would be, I think I did inventory. Next report which we would go into is what we call the financial statement. So this is pivot tables. So this is the look and feel of a pivot table. Data is stored within the Excel template, and then you are able to pull the data in, and like I said, you don't have to keep refreshing it. The data is stored, so when you're saving it, some could go up here and they could automatically change whatever they want, whether it's filters, whether it's a period, whether it's a year, as long as you pull that data when you're running the report. For financial statements, what we use is called a report designer. that allows us to be able to do the financial statements in a kind of a nicer view without having the pivot table, because pivot tables are very limited. It's just more for slicing and dicing and pulling information and doing filters, whereas financial statements are more detailed and robust. So here's kind of some samples of what we call the report designer. It's not looking at several Excel templates, pulling the data in. This is pretty much a formula that Sage has created. And if I look at this formula, it's asking me, what's my account number? What's my company? What cell it's in? What's my year? What's my period? Am I doing it based on an account group? Whether I'm not, I'm doing it based on account category, account structure code, currency, whether I want it to be Canadian and functional, do I want it to be USD and source, and the reporting tree unit. So this formula allows it to go into this table and now pull this data out. So this data is already stored. So if I click on unhide, you'll see there's multiple tables or multiple sheets, which the system has pulled out when we refresh this report. It's got segments, it's got my account groups, it's got my structure, my physical data, my settings, my currency, my actuals. So it's pulling out the actuals based on the parameters that I selected when I ran this report. So that when I go in and I try to build a report, it now knows, okay, based on that data, I want the account number and knows where to go pull that account. Based on 1500, it's going to go look at that account. Income statement, same thing. This is now telling me it's a GL actual. So on my formulas on here, on my right-hand side, they've given you some formulas. So actual year-to-date, budget year-to-date, current year, current period, company name, quantity. So if you have quantities in your database, in your GL, you could also pull that information as well. Account description, structure code. So if I was to just drag a column here and to say, what's my actual? All I would do is do actual. I'd go in here, modify it. Okay, I want to look at this account. This company would be, keep in mind, it's the sample data, it's your database ID, not your company name, it's your database ID. My year, say, I could even type if I wanted to save it. 2000, actually I'll say 2019, period, and I'll say current, I'll say, oops, sorry, period 5, currency code, Canadian, currency type, functional, and then I go back in here and I format it. I might want, because this is sales, I might want it not in negative, so I put a negative sign in front of the formula. Okay, so now if I know, oh, say this is my sales, actually this should be a line down because I'm really on this line. If I see this total and I want to see, okay, well, what makes that up? I could right-click, drill down to cheapen my data, and now it shows me it's pulling my sales, 4,000, period 2019, period 1, and my total amount that totals into this. So now it's kind of like a nice drill-down feature. If you're looking at any of your income statements or your balance sheets and you see a number that doesn't look accurate, you could now go in and drill down on any of the information. Can't drill down on the sum total because this is a sum of all these rows below. Has to actually be a GL account actual, a formula from the Sage Intelligence reporting, and it will give you a drill down spreadsheet that will give you the full details of what that number is comprised of. Within the income statement, you have the ability to also create budgets, so you could have an actual to budget. Whether or not it's your full year budget or year-to-date budget. So in here, you instead of putting in, look at column period 1, if it's a full year, you always want budget year-to-date based on period 12. So you know that it's your full year budget. Like I said before, you have the ability of doing consolidations. So within the consolidation, I'm pulling in information from this company, Sample Company Limited versus Sample Company Inc. I've specified on my formula here that I'm looking at this company database, with this fiscal year, with this, period versus year in this account. So if I was to look at any of these accounts, I would see that this, if I say drill down, you'll see that now I'm pulling data for the sample company Inc. It's telling me my year, it's even giving me my journal entry date versus my batch number, my entry number, my foreign currency amount, and my home currency amount. And if I pull this information down for this one, you'll see that's going to be based on the sample limited, because I've now consolidated and I've used the consolidation connection query to say I want to pull these two companies when I'm doing consolidations, and now I'm able to pull data out from the system without having to go in and do multiple spreadsheets, copy and pasting, linking, and using Excel formulas and exchange rates. Now, it's also showing me my currency and my total amounts as well. What we've done in the past is if it is a USD company and it's a Canadian, we are able to build queries so that we will pull your foreign exchange rates, whether it's your average for your income statement and your spot for your balance sheet, and we've been able to link it to your foreign exchange table and then convert your USD to Canadian to then consolidate in Canadian consolidation, or even within Canadian to USD, same thing. Consolidations, keep in mind that it does not self-eliminate, intercompany transactions. So what we've done in the past is, in order to accommodate the elimination, is we've created what we call an elimination company, and then that way we will pull that company as well in and do an elimination. So we would have another column in here, and you would see that it would say eliminations. Now I don't have a company in here, but what would happen is if I was to pull this in and you had maybe $1,000 of revenue offset against some kind of expense, and then this would be zero. You do your sum, so this, and then your totals would be based on, once again, Excel formulas would be some of that. So within consolidations, it's not self-proof. We would have to create an elimination company in order for you to be able to get consolidated data. But it is doable. We've done it in the past. It's just a matter of setting up a new company database and being able to, at month end, do your self-elimination entries in the database, and then it will populate in the spreadsheet as well. Now, you could also hide these, so you may not want to see, you just want to see your total actuals, your actual total. You also may need, then you might want to see the budget beside it. So you would have these 4 columns again with your budget totals, and then you would hide this information. So then you would have your actuals versus budget, and then you'd have your, your variance column. So I could maybe pull in your budget, year to date, and I'll just do that. So account would be 4,000. Company, I'll do for now, was Sam Limited. Sorry. I'm going to just kind of go in here to make sure I got the right one. period 6. Now it's asking me for my budget. No, this is now asking me for a budget set code. So let's say period 1. Now I don't know if there's anything in this database. Period 5. Let's do period 1. Currency code Canadian. Currency type functional. But unfortunately, I don't think there's any database information in this database for budget. So you are able to define the budget set. So you have 5 budget sets in your system, so you just have to define which one you're pulling your data from, and then you'd be able to pull in your budget and then do a formula to say equals this for subtract this. And then you format it any which way you want. Within your GL, you also have what we call different segments. So you have multiple segments. So one that might identify a department or a division. You're able to then build what we call trees. So in this demo, in this case, when we go edit, you will see that right now this level up is at a divisional level, is the second segment, and then the retail, and then the regional level is the third segment. So this is basically saying anything that's at a commercial level is at 100, but at the regional level, it's 110 is northern, 120 is southern, and vice versa. So you're able to set mapping so that you could use at any time. It then allows you to then go in and build your reporting unit. So on this, you will see on this formula, it's now asking for your reporting tree that you've created, and it's saying, give me the reporting tree K4, which is your northern. So it's going to go in and pull out anything that has a region of 100 and a department, or I should say, a division of 100 and a region of 10. If I was to drill down on this, you'll see, 210. So it's only pulling out data that has to meet the criteria of a division of 200, which is your segment 2 of your GL code, and 10 being your region, which is your third segment of your GL code. So in here, you'd have to make sure that if you're adding an account, the only thing is you would have to come in here and or if you add in a new segment or a new region, so maybe region 50, you would have to then go in and add this to this mapping. Otherwise, it will not be able to be reported on when you run the reports. So that's your regional, your divisional. There are cash flows, balance sheets, same as your financial statements now, just a bit more flexibility without having to do your VLOOKUPs and be able to do multiple linking to get all your databases and do consolidation. At that point, I hope you had a great overview of what Sage Intelligence has to offer. And if there is any questions or answers that you may have, feel free to ask them now, and we could go through those quickly. Nothing? Stefan, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks so much, Karen. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact myself or Karen. My contact information is on the screen, and we'd be happy to reach out and contact you for any other answers that you might need. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.